realize there are wrongful convictions, and we have the death penalty. Need we say more? How do you reconcile those two realities in the society? You cannot. And if there's no other cause that will convince you that this fight is necessary, one wrongful conviction leading to one more unjust execution. Ms. Bandele. No, it's okay. Ms. Bandele is an activist, a member of the Malcolm X Grassroots movement, and one of the all too few who remember and fight for our political prisoners. Ms. Bandele.
Peace and good morning. I want to thank the organizers of this, and special thanks to Laura Whitehorn. I'm sure there are many others, but she is always, always steadfast, making sure that we are doing the right thing at the right time. So there are 130 death row inmates that have been exonerated since 1973. Most of them were exonerated based on DNA evidence. The bulk of them were convicted on eyewitness accounts. The evidence was eyewitness testimony. Unfortunately, in the case of Troy Davis, there is no DNA with that type of case. In his case, just like those 130 that have been exonerated in recent history, was based solely on eyewitness testimony. And so when we get into looking at the Troy Davis case specifically, we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean for every single person who's on death row and every single person who's incarcerated in this country, who's in prison? There are many, many studies that have been done, and like they said earlier, our time is limited, and there's a lot of information out there that you have and that you have access to. But one of the things I want to say firmly and for sure is that race matters. Yes. Race matters in sentencing, race matters in who gets put to death and who does not. And if you find anything to dispute that, please bring it, but no one has been able to. Okay, thank you. Troy Davis was not just a bystander in his situation. He summoned us all from a cell, from behind a wall, from behind bars. He's an activist, a champion for human rights. And so he will not be remembered as being someone who was just a victim of an unjust system. He can be remembered for much, much more. But what he's remembered for is going to depend on what we do in his name moving forward. He can be known for what happened last week, or he can be known for abolishing the death penalty in the United States. Our African tradition teaches us that it is not enough to mourn the death of those who make the world better for us, for our champions, for those in our community. That is not befitting of what we do with our ancestors, to just kind of mourn them and go on. That we must also celebrate their life. That we have to rejoice, we have to sing, we have to dance, we have to tell their stories. That's one of the pieces. But the most important piece, the most important thing you can do to honor an ancestor is to continue their work, to pick up their struggle, and to continue their fight. At this moment right now, there are hundreds of people in line who could not get into the funeral for Troy Davis right now in Savannah, Georgia. As we gather here in Manhattan, his physical body is being put to rest in Georgia. He is being put in the ground, and his physical presence will be no more. And as we sit here today in solidarity with those hundreds of people at his funeral, with his family, with Martina that Yusuf talked about, I think there's just one question that we have to answer, that we have to ask ourselves and that we have to answer. As Troy Davis is being put down into the ground, who are you? Each and every one of us has to ask that question of ourselves and answer that question, who are you? I am Troy Davis. And as many millions and millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of us that can also proclaim that we are Troy Davis, we can crush the system that has buried him. Ashe.